From the sizzle on the top to the vision that defines. This is kitchen to C-suite. Welcome to the show.
From the blistering heat of the line, where seconds determine your reputation, to the cold, hard numbers of the boardroom, where decimals determine your survival. This is From Kitchen to C-Suite. I'm your host, Don. For the last decade, the narrative in the food world felt like a modern-day gold rush. We were sold a vision where convenience was the ultimate currency, and third-party delivery apps were the golden bridge to a limitless customer base. It was the golden age of the digital storefront, a frictionless world where a ghost kitchen tucked in a parking lot could theoretically outmaneuver a Michelin-starred institution, all powered by an opaque algorithm and a global fleet of gig workers. But lately, the gold is looking a lot like brass. Across the industry, restaurateurs are waking up to a grim mathematical reality. When you've got a labor market tighter than a sous chef's apron strings, food costs climbing at record rates, and delivery platforms carving out a 20% to 30% pound of flesh off the top, the math simply stops working. We have reached the friction point where user growth hits the brick wall of unit economics. Today's episode is a deep dive into the crumbling facade of the delivery-first model. We're calling it thin margins, thick fees, the end of the golden age of food apps. In the next 15 to 20 minutes, we're moving past the surface-level complaints about service fees. We're dissecting the systemic shifts forcing operators to choose between digital relevance and actual solvency. We'll be breaking down the subsidy mirage, how venture capital spent years subsidizing your customers' burgers, and why that free money has finally dried up. The data hostage crisis. Why owning the kitchen but losing the customer data to a third-party app is a long-term recipe for disaster. The pivot to sovereignty. How the most successful C-suite executives are deplatforming and reclaiming their direct-to-consumer margins. In the old world, location was everything. In the new world, the platform is everything. But if you don't own the platform, do you really own your business? We've reached a breaking point in the delivery wars. From CFOs finally pulling the plug on predatory contracts, to Wall Street analysts forecasting an imminent Big Three collapse, the math simply isn't adding up anymore. Today, we look at why the $30 sandwich isn't just a pricing anomaly. It's the beginning of the end. Grab a coffee, pull up a chair, and let's look at the balance sheet. The contemporary paradigm of door-to-door culinary logistics, once lauded as a transformative digital shift in the hospitality sector, is increasingly compromised by a, quote, convenience tax that frequently doubles the consumer's financial obligation. As the chasm widens between the wholesale value of sustenance and the final transaction total, a burgeoning coalition of disillusioned consumers, independent restaurateurs, and federal regulators is demanding a fundamental restructuring of the third-party delivery framework. Market analysts suggest that absent a radical pivot toward transparency and institutional accountability, the current ecosystem, characterized by intermediaries that prioritize algorithmic fee structures over service quality, will face a terminal market correction by 2030. For a significant portion of the domestic market, the threshold of economic viability has been surpassed. A standard $15 entree routinely escalates into a $30 liability following the application of a gauntlet of secondary charges, delivery fees, service surcharges, small order penalties, and localized regulatory response fees, compounded by the requisite courier gratuity. When the aggregate cost of surcharges and gratuities approaches or exceeds the intrinsic value of the product, the value proposition collapses into obsolescence. We are witnessing the onset of quote, fee fatigue. When a consumer pays a 100% premium for food that arrives tepid or incomplete, the result is the permanent deletion of the application. The most systemic failure of the prevailing model is its inherent lack of liability. The industry currently operates within a blame-shifting loop that leaves the primary stakeholder, the diner, without adequate recourse. Inventory inaccuracy. Couriers deflect responsibility to the kitchen. Restaurants cite faulty platform interfaces. Platforms allege kitchen mismanagement. Thermal and temporal degradation. In pursuit of logistical efficiency, platforms frequently daisy-chain multiple deliveries, resulting in extended transit times that leave orders stagnant in vehicles for 45 minutes or more. Product compromise. Inadequate handling during the last mile often results in the arrival of unappealing or damaged goods. Under existing contractual structures, restaurants are frequently coerced into subsidizing these logistical failures, bearing the financial burden of refunds, even when errors occur during the transit phase controlled exclusively by the platform. The proposed Delivery Bill of Rights, a mandate for 2030, to avert total obsolescence by the end of the decade, Reform advocates argue that the following standards must be codified into enforceable regulatory frameworks. Automatic fee recoupment. Legislation should mandate that service and delivery charges be automatically waived if an order fails to meet baseline standards of punctuality, temperature, or accuracy. Institutional tip indemnity. In instances of documented courier negligence, the platform, rather than the individual laborer, should be responsible for consumer compensation, ensuring driver base pay remains stable while the consumer is made whole. Restaurateur immunity. Platforms must assume full financial liability for logistical errors. The practice of charging restaurants for refunds necessitated by delivery phase failures must be legally prohibited. The human support mandate. To bridge the digital wall, platforms should be required to provide real-time human intervention. Direct telephonic access to resolution agents is essential for maintaining consumer trust. The prevailing frustration is exacerbated by the impenetrable nature of digital support. Major platforms have systematically replaced human empathy with AI-driven scripts that prioritize cost mitigation over conflict resolution. Attempting to recover funds for a ruined meal often feels like an exercise in futility, as automated interfaces offer performative understanding, followed by negligible credits that do not reflect the scale of the error. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, has initiated a rigorous inquiry into junk fees and deceptive pricing strategies within the delivery sector. The market signal is unambiguous. The era of unchecked middleman growth is concluding. The stark economic and operational divergence between traditional pickup and contemporary third-party delivery services reveals a significant premium placed on the convenience of door-to-door logistics. In a traditional pickup scenario, the consumer engages in a direct transaction with the merchant, where the base menu price remains anchored at a foundational $25. Because this model eliminates the intermediary, there are no ancillary service or delivery fees, and gratuity remains entirely at the discretion of the customer, often resulting in minimal additional expenditure. This direct relationship also fosters immediate accountability. Any discrepancies in the order can be resolved through instantaneous, face-to-face communication. Consequently, the total financial outlay for the consumer remains a transparent and predictable $25. In contrast, the third-party delivery model introduces a complex, multi-tiered cost structure that dramatically inflates the final price point. This begins with the base menu price, which is frequently upscaled to $28, an inflation strategy employed by many restaurants to offset the substantial commissions charged by delivery platforms. On top of this adjusted base, consumers are met with compulsory service and delivery fees, totaling approximately $8.49, creating a rigid cost floor before even considering the human element of the service. The social and logistical expectations of delivery necessitate a significantly higher average gratuity, typically ranging from $6 to $8, to incentivize drivers and compensate for the physical demands of the journey. Furthermore, the accountability mechanism shifts from personal interaction to an automated, often delayed resolution process mediated by digital interfaces and customer support tickets. When these factors aggregate, the total cost surges to a range between $42.49 and $44.49, representing a nearly 70% to 80% markup over the original pickup price for the exact same commodity. If third-party platforms fail to transition from predatory intermediaries to accountable utility providers, they face a mass exodus of both consumers and merchants. We are already observing a nascent return-to-source movement, where diners bypass applications in favor of in-house delivery or white-label logistics that return control and quality to the restaurant. By 2030, the market will have decided either the convenience tax must align with the quality of the service provided, or the third-party delivery bubble will irrevocably burst. As we close the books on today's episode, thin margins, thick fees, the end of the golden age of food apps. One thing is abundantly clear. The honeymoon phase between digital platforms and brick-and-mortar kitchens has reached its inevitable conclusion. The golden age, characterized by venture capital subsidized growth and a growth-at-all-costs mentality, is being replaced by a more rigorous, disciplined era of operational excellence. To survive the squeeze of rising delivery commissions and evolving consumer habits, the modern culinary leader must be more than a chef. You must be a data-driven strategist. Whether you are pivoting toward first-party delivery, renegotiating third-party contracts, or re-engineering your menu for maximum thermal integrity and margin, the path to the C-suite is now paved with financial literacy and technological agility. This podcast is supported by the generous commitment of our sponsors, and we extend a special thank you to HRB Universal. Their dedication to providing comprehensive resources, from food safety certification to executive development and promoting excellence, is key to empowering professionals across the culinary and hospitality industries. We also want to acknowledge the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program, This initiative exemplifies a true commitment to fostering shared success and equitable growth within the food and beverage sector. By providing the capital and mentorship necessary for underrepresented founders, they are helping entrepreneurs build a more inclusive and thriving future for us all. The journey from the kitchen line to the executive boardroom is fueled by constant innovation, relentless dedication, and, perhaps most importantly, the right network. We encourage you to engage with the resources and support offered by our sponsors to ensure your business remains resilient in this shifting landscape. Get connected. For details on how to partner with HRB Universal and the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program, visit hrbuni.com or simply search for HRB Universal online. Whether you're navigating the morning commute or decompressing after a long shift, we make sure the insights you need are always within reach. On the go? Subscribe and listen via Riverside at fromkitchen-to-c-suite.riverside.com or directly on our home base, hrbuni.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, or Deezer. On the big screen, level up your experience by watching the From Kitchen to C-Suite podcast on the HRB TV network. For the best viewing experience, search for HRB TV Network on your Roku or Fire TV device to stream our deep dive interviews directly from your living room. The market has spoken. The days of the middleman monopoly are numbered. We are witnessing a definitive return-to-source movement, a shift where diners are cutting out the apps and reconnecting directly with restaurants through in-house fleets or white-label logistics. This transition restores both quality control and brand sovereignty to the kitchen. By 2030, the industry will reach its reckoning. The convenience tax must finally justify its cost, or the third-party delivery bubble will burst for good. Thank you for joining us. In our next episode, we'll continue to break down the trends and challenges shaping your professional journey and fueling your entrepreneurial spirit. Until then, keep your blades sharp, your margins tight, and never stop striving for excellence.